the author of Atomic Obsession, Nuclear Alarmism from Hiroshima to Al-Qaeda, and the book Overblown, How Politicians and the Terrorism Industry Inflate National Security Threats and Why We Believe Them. He joins us from Columbus, Ohio. We welcome you to Democracy Now! Professor, lay out your criticism of what took place, this largest gathering of world leaders held by the United States since FDR.
Well, much of it, I think, is fine. Locking up fissile material, the uranium and plutonium, is certainly a worthy objective. But what I object to is sort of this sense that there's this huge urgency. Terrorists are extraordinarily unlikely to be able to get a nuclear weapon, and certainly not in any time soon. As far as I can see, it's about the same likelihood as the United States being hit by an asteroid, something like that, maybe 1 in 3.5 billion to put it together. It's very difficult. So. And I'm also concerned about the general hype over nuclear weapons, and I'm afraid that's going to be focused increasingly on Iran, in which, in order to worry about a worst-case fantasy in which Iran would somehow dominate the Middle East with the occasional nuclear weapon, we would launch military strikes which would kill tens or even hundreds of thousands of people. The same policy course which was applied to Iraq in the 90s and now in this century.
But Professor Mueller, why is it so hard for groups to get so-called loose nukes?
Well, mainly because they don't exist. No one's really been able to find anything that's a loose nuke. If you did actually buy or steal a nuclear weapon, what you'd find is that it's got a lot of locks on it, and there's very few people who know how to unlock it. In the case of Pakistan, for example, they keep their weapons in pieces, so you'd have to steal or buy one half, go to another secure location and buy or steal the other half, somehow know how to put tab A into slot B, and set it off. The number of people, as I say, the number of people who know how to set them off is very small. The people who design them do not know how to set them off, and the people who maintain them do not know how to set them off. So just getting the bombs, and they also have locks on them, which will, if tampered with, will cause a conventional explosion, which will cause the weapon itself to self-destruct effectively in a conventional explosion. So the danger is extraordinarily small, it seems to me.
And John Mueller, you also say that that terrorists exhibit only a limited desire to obtain these nuclear weapons, which goes contrary to what most intelligence reports are telling us. Why do you say that?
Well, I looked at those intelligence reports, and of course Obama said the same thing. The indication of interest is extraordinarily small. There is some interest that they sort of think about it. They have thought about it from time to time. But for example, in Afghanistan, when there were some hotheads among Al-Qaeda wanted to develop weapons of mass destruction, mostly like chemical weapons, which actually aren't weapons of mass destruction. Bin Laden basically approved it, but didn't put any money into it. When they left Afghanistan after the invasion in 2001, we got a computer which indicated that their entire budget for weapons of mass destruction, mainly primitive work on chemical weapons, was about $2,000. And since that time, they certainly haven't been in better position. There's no indication they have anything resembling a competent technology team that could put anything together, maybe not even chemical weapons, much less nuclear ones.
Well, I want to turn to what President Obama had to say at yesterday's news conference when he was asked about Israel's nuclear program. He was questioned by Scott Wilson of The Washington Post.
You have spoken often about the need to bring U.S. policy in line with its treaty obligations internationally to eliminate the perception of hypocrisy that some of the world sees toward the United States and its allies. In that spirit and in that venue, will you call on Israel to declare its nuclear program and sign the Non-Proliferation Treaty? And if not, why wouldn't other countries see that as an incentive not to sign on to the treaty that you say is important to strengthen?
Well, Scott, initially we were talking about U.S. behavior, and then suddenly we were talking about Israel. Let me talk about the United States. I do think that as part of the NPT, our obligation as the largest nuclear power in the world is to take steps to reducing our nuclear stockpile. And that's what the START Treaty was about, sending a message that we are going to meet our obligations. And as far as Israel goes, I'm not going to comment on their program. What I'm going to point to is the fact that consistently we have urged all countries to become members of the NPT. So there's no contradiction there.
That was President Obama speaking yesterday at the news conference. Well, last year, veteran White House correspondent Helen Thomas pressed Obama on nuclear weapons in the Middle East in a clear reference to Israel. The president tried to ignore that part of her question.
Mr. President, do you think that Pakistan and are maintaining the safe havens in Afghanistan for these so-called terrorists? And also, do you know of any country in the Middle East that has nuclear weapons?
Well, I think that Pakistan, there is no doubt that in the Fatah region of Pakistan, in the mountainous regions along the border of Afghanistan, that there are safe havens where terrorists are operating. And one of the goals of Ambassador Holbrooke, as he is traveling throughout the region, is to deliver a message to Pakistan that they are endangered as much as we are by the continuation of those operations, and that we've got to work in a regional fashion to root out those safe havens. With respect to nuclear weapons, I don't want to speculate. What I know is this, that if we see a nuclear arms race in a region as volatile as the Middle East, everybody will be in danger. And one of my goals is to prevent nuclear proliferation generally. I think that it's important for the United States, in concert with Russia, to lead the way on this.
Well, in addition to John Mueller, we're also joined from Washington, D.C.